Namaskara and welcome to We, the City, a space where we explore everything that shapes our urban lives, from design and urbanism to art, books, and socio-cultural conversations and many more. This podcast is a neutral platform created to listen, learn, and engage with diverse voices and perspectives without endorsing or dismissing any point of view. Together, let's uncover the many layers that make our cities and communities what they are. These conversations are brought to you by MArch Urban Design, BMS School of Architecture, Yelahanka, Bengaluru.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of We the City. I'm Ranjan Cherian, Assistant Professor for the MArch Urban Design Program at BMS School of Architecture, Yelahanka. Today we are celebrating Bangalore Literary Fest and our guest is Miss Roopa Pai. Welcome to another episode of We the City. Miss Roopa Pai is a computer engineer and is also one of India's best known children's writer, whose many best-selling books are enjoyed as much as adults as they are by children. She is a co-founder of Bangalore Walks, and today we will have a chat with her about her book Becoming Bangalore and her unapologetic love affair with the city. So, welcome Roopa to We the City.
Thank you, Ranjan. Great pleasure to be here.
Thank you. So let's start with Bangalore Walks. I know that you've been conducting these walks for a very long time now. What made you start Bangalore Walks?
Yeah, okay. It was, we started in 2004 actually, the year we returned from the US to live in Bangalore. Of course, by we I mean my husband and I. We are both Bangalore kids who grew up here and then got married, went away, lived in other cities, other countries for about 12 years, and then came back to Bangalore in 2004 with 2 children in tow. And having just returned from the US, that was our last port of call, where they celebrate everything in their little 200 and whatever year history. They celebrate so much, 250 years of history. They celebrate everything. And we came back thinking, man, we have to do something about history. And so there were 2 things. I'm a children's writer, so I was fascinated by this institution called the American Public Library, which had allowed you to borrow as many books as you like at a time. So for children, it's like an absolute wonderland. And I said, we need to create, and every one of those books will have something about Abraham Lincoln or Martin Luther King or Rosa Parks, or, all these iconic American heroes. That pride in the country is built so much. And this was 2004 when when the children's literature in India wasn't so as booming as it is now. Okay. So one idea we had was how to teach through books and music. Maybe that could, because they used to have cassette tapes or whatever, CDs and video cassettes of the books, or some information. So how to get kids to remember the tables easily, how to get kids to remember American history easily, all in the form of song, which you could borrow and listen to. So we said we must do something like this, or we start history walks. Before the US, when we were just married, we had lived in London for a while, and as very poor people in London, the only thing we could actually afford were walks, history walks, and London Walks very famous, so we used to go on all these walks, and we both had realized that it's such a great way of learning about a city, the storytelling about the city, and going and exploring it on foot. So these 2 options were open to us when we came back. And then we came back and we said, first we wanted to do Hampi very badly. We wanted to start with Hampi. We said, we have such a fabulous resource there, and if you go there is no interpretation center, there's nobody to meet you, there are no maps that you can explore on your own, no audio guides, nothing. So 21 years ago, that's what we thought we would do. But our kids were young, very young, and then Hampi was very far away. Now you can reach there by 5 hours by road because a new highway got built during COVID. But earlier it used to take like 8 hours. So being based in Bangalore and doing something about Hampi became untenable after a while. So then my husband said, okay, let's see what we can do in Bangalore itself. And he went off and did some independent research in Bangalore, spoke to people, went to the Mythic Society archive, started looking around and discovered, my God, there's a lot of stories to tell right here. Why go anywhere else? And when we talked to people, we realized that nobody knows, apart from a few people who are hobbyists and are interested in the history of Bangalore, nobody knew very much about the history of Bangalore at all. Somehow Bangalore doesn't have these crumbling palaces, it doesn't have old fortresses, it doesn't give you a sense of history. It feels very young, very vibrant, young people, colleges, IT, always looking ahead. So we don't realize the amount of history we have. And that's when the idea came, let's do Bangalore walks. Let us find histories of Bangalore and let us tell the story of Bangalore in a walk. Now, 21 years later, there are a lot of walking tours in Bangalore. I'm thrilled about it.
There are a lot of treasures, hidden treasures.
And hidden in plain sight.
Okay.
We walk past it all the time and we have no idea. But that, that started off, I've always had a big love affair with Bangalore. But when you understand it in a particular way, that why it is the way it is, it's a different thing. Yeah.
Great. So I've got my copy and I can't just stop staring at the jacket. It's a poster that I can hang it on the wall. It's super amazing.
Yeah, it is very beautiful. It is designed and illustrated by Priya Kurian, who's a very well-known illustrator of children's books specifically, picture books, but also she does all kinds of illustration for Manu Pillai's books and everything, covers. She's very, very versatile. And Priya and I had worked together with Hachette, which is the publishing house that published this book and has published most of my other books. We had worked together on my first series of books for Hachette back in 2009. That was called Tara Knots. It is India's first fantasy adventure series for children in English. And there are 8 books in the series. So Priya illustrated each and one of them, every one of them. And the covers and production values at that time were so stand out. I think I would not hesitate to say that it was the first series or first set of children's books in India that was so attractive that nobody could tell that whether it was a foreign book or an Indian book.
Right.
Until then, somehow production values of Indian children's books were beautiful illustrations always. Production values were not keeping up. But I think Hachette brought in a different kind of production. So if you looked at it. So Priya and I and Vatsala, who edited Tara Knots from Hachette, have been in touch. But Priya and I never worked again until becoming Bangalore.
Right.
And in the meantime, between 2009 and 2024, she had moved to Bangalore from Delhi and made this her home.
Right.
So, but she had recently moved, so she had always said, if you have any Bangalore things, because I write this column in the Hindustan Times, fortnightly column. So she had been reading those and she said, if we ever do a book or you want to do a book of people of Bangalore, she does these doodles, we'll work together. And then this opportunity came. And yeah, it was the original dream team, my original dream team, Vatsala, Priya and I. So we came up with this.
I think for the listeners, if you haven't had a copy, I think if you get a copy, the book comes with a jacket, and there's an inside portion of the jacket. It's full of illustrations. It's a whole, all the months are laid out, and what major events in each month is also very illustrated in it. It's fantastic. You can just simply post it up on your...
Yes, that was the intention. We hoped that people would take out anyway, people don't use the dust jacket, right? Usually when you're reading a book, you put it aside and you read it because it comes in the way. So we said, if people are going to take out the dust jacket anyway, why don't we make it into a nice poster and they can put it up and people can look forward to events that are happening.
So in your book, I quote, I miss loving my city with this second kind of love. The kind that natives like me can never fully enjoy without our own righteous selves, pulling us up with short of an accusatory, oh come, you would feel quite different about Bangalore if you hadn't grown up here. So Roopa, I'm a Malayali, currently navigating the city for 9 years, which means I'm trying to love Bangalore anew. Okay, so tell me if it's okay if I try my luck at dating Bangalore. Or are you too possessive about her?
No, not at all. I love her to bits, but I love the fact that I also love the fact that she's able to be such a magnet for talented people from all over who come here and succumb to her charms and cannot leave. We complain about too many people coming in from outside, changing the texture of the city, changing the fabric. But we have to remember that ever since its inception, perhaps also based on its location, it is actually bang in the center of the southern peninsula, equidistant from 2 major ports. If you go due east, you hit Chennai, and if you go due west, you hit Mangalore. So because by virtue of its location, it has always been part of trading routes. It's always been a place where people from different places came and met and mingled. And when Kempegowda built it in 1537, he again invited people to come and populate it, Right. So it has always been a place where others have also come in and loved it so much that they made it their own and enriched it by their presence, by their contributions. So anyone is welcome to come and begin a love affair with Bangalore. I'm happy to share her. But it should be a love affair. It cannot be a hate affair with Bangalore. Then it's a problem.
Right. So I can have a fling with Bangalore and
definitely, please knock yourself out. I'll be the matchmaker. Absolutely. I'll take you on walks. I'll write books for you so that you can discover her charms. Yeah.
Great. So today we are joining the rest of Bangalore in celebrating the Bangalore Literary Fest. So your book was launched last year?
Yes.
During the fest?
Yes.
So for our listeners, could you just tell us about what the Bangalore's equation with literature?
Oh, huge. It's the kind of city that inspires you to compose, I think, poetry, music, because first of all, however cliched it is to say it, the weather is fabulous, okay? The climate is fabulous. So when you're comfortable that way, when you have nature all around you and, the weather is lovely, it inspires art, whether you like it or not. And there has been great literature from centuries and centuries. Karnataka itself is a great, hotbed of great literature. And Bangalore being the capital, it seems to be the magnet where people convened. And then Mysore, there was a kingdom of Mysore. So Mysore, Bangalore, that old kingdom of Mysore has been very encouraging of literature. Then there has been Dharwad, Shimoga, Malnad area. That is another big hotbed of literature, Kannada literature.
Okay.
But in Bangalore, English, Kannada, everything was always around. If you take even the very first definition of what is the region of Kannada that we get is from a Rashtrakuta king Amoga Varsha's text called Kaviraja Marga, where he says that the land between the Krishna and the Kaveri, that is Karnataka. Okay, that is the Kannada Nadu. So, and it was written, in 970 something, in the 9th century. Not 9th century, 8th century, we'll check. But Amoga Varsha is like really ancient, and the Kannada Nadu was already defined by him as this geographical entity between the Krishna and the Kaveri rivers. So we've had and so if Kaviraja Marga was written, then it was a text on poetics, on grammar, that kind of thing. So we know that Kannada literature must have existed before, and it was formalized by him in this text as to how the grammar should be and everything. So it's a very old and deep connect with literature. So if you look at Indians who have contributed, Kannadigas, of course, there's Kuvempu, although he was more a Mysore man and a Malnad man than Bangalore. But from Bangalore, there have been Shivaram Karant and Bendre. Okay, Bendre is also Dharwad, so it's not really Bangalore. But you know what Bangalore has had contemporarily in the 90s, 70s, 80s, 90s? It's had a huge tradition of women novelists.
Yeah.
We even have a Nobel Prize winner for literature.
Oh, okay.
Who composed his very first books in Bangalore. Not composed, wrote his very first books in Bangalore. That was Winston Churchill.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, not many people know that he won the Nobel Prize for literature. Yeah, he did. And his very first book as a war correspondent was written while he was a resident of Bangalore in the 1890s. Late 1890s.
I was aware of his love affair.
Yeah.
Which is
Yes.
in Bangalore.
Yes.
I never knew about his.
Yes, he wrote his first 2 books here actually, and then went back to England. He was here for 3 years.
Yes.
He lived, we don't know exactly where, there's a lot of argument about where exactly Winston Churchill's house was, but we do know that he was a member of the Bangalore Club,
Yes.
which was called the Bangalore United Services Club.
He still owes money.
Yes, he still owes money, and you go into the reception and you'll see the register with Winston Spencer Churchill written there, and defaulter, 13 rupees he owes to the Bangalore Club. Coming from my own background as a children's writer, I think there are more children's writers, contemporary children's writers, Indian children's writers who write from Bangalore than from anywhere else. Either they are still in Bangalore, they are in Bangalore and they write, or they are Bangaloreans who have moved somewhere else and are writing.
Okay.
Yeah, so there is a huge number of Indian children's writers also who are based in Bangalore or grew up in Bangalore.
Right.
So my enduring memory of childhood, one of my core memories is watching my mum read. She was always reading. She always had a stack of Kannada novels by her bedside table, and she would be reading them. And as children, we knew that the best time to ask for something which we were likely not to get permission for was when she was reading, because then she didn't want to be distracted and she would say yes without realizing, or she'd just say, stop bothering me. So that infused in me a love of literature also. Just an idea that reading is a pleasurable activity and it's so absorbing that you can't tear your eyes away. You know, it's that absorbing. That was set in me. She was always okay to buy us books. We didn't have much money, like any Indian middle class family didn't have very much disposable income in the 80s. But we always had second-hand bookstores in Bangalore.
Right.
So you could go and exchange your books, get other books for less. So it was all wonderful, and she would always take us to all these places. It was only much later, because I didn't read Kannada novels. I was such an English reading kid. But later when I grew up and I began to think about what did my mom used to read, somewhere I came across a name, Usha Navaratna Ram. It seemed so familiar because I had seen it on all the novels that she was reading. Then I did a little more research and I realized that there were so many women novelists of Bangalore. So there was Triveni. Her books were made into very, very successful films by an iconic film director called Puttana Kanagal. Very women-centric novels, and dealt with the topic of mental health and emotional abuse within marriage or emotional neglect within marriage.
So these were at which time period?
60s.
60s. Oh.
Yeah. Right. Quite. I write in my book that perhaps it needed to reach a tipping point where there were enough women educated enough to read, and then these novelists came into their own. But in Karnataka, I think it's also because of Basava from the 12th century, who fought for gender equality at that time with Akka Mahadevi and all that. Not only social equality, caste equality, but also gender equality. He was very woke, Even today, his things are very relevant, what he said. So maybe, because there are so many, his influence is so big in Karnataka, gender equality is very much part of our lifestyle, of the Kannadiga lifestyle. And the we see so, in our homes, we never have to think that, we never felt that boys are treated differently from girls, sons are different from daughters, not at all. We've all been brought up very equally. All girls work, everybody does engineering. It's a thing, it's a Bangalore thing. So I never felt that science is not for girls or we should do nothing. So I'll tell you who are so Triveni used to write about mental health and all, and she died very young, and unfortunately. Right. But her books have made such a huge impact. Then there was Vaidehi. She's also a very famous Kannada novelist. Usha Navaratna Ram wrote romance novels, and within the home, like it was a Kannada equivalent of Mills and Boon. There were, who are the other Kannada novelists? And the first Kannada novelist was from Nanjangud, way back in the 1920s itself. The first Kannada woman novelist called Tirumalamba was there, and she wrote from Nanjangud. Imagine 1920. How many women were literate at that time across India? But again, Mysore was way ahead, because the Maharajas of Mysore, Chamarajendra Wadiyar and the Krishnarajendra Wadiyar the fourth, such huge encouragement for women's education. Vani Vilas Sanidhana, the mother of Krishnaraja Wadiyar the fourth, she took charge in the 1890s with Sheshadri Iyer, got the Indian Institute of Science, signed that off to come here. She also built the Victoria Hospital. She commissioned the hydroelectric dam at Shivanasamudra. So women have always held positions of great thing. Right. And in a princely state, not only to have education in English or education in general, but also education for girls as far back as the 19th century was quite unusual, and Mysore was there. So we had all these novelists, and we also had Dr. Anupama Niranjana. She was a proper doctor, and she was married to another Kannada great thinker and novelist called Niranjana. But she also wrote like medical books, medical mysteries, and for children, and regular novels. So there've just been a whole lot of Unfortunately, that novelist thing has gone off now, And there was a humorist also. There was a Kannada humorist called Sunandamma who used to write for this magazine called Koravanji, which was a humor magazine in Kannada.
Okay.
Again, very long ago. So all kinds of genres. Then there was Nalini Murthy, who was a physicist. She was an electrical engineer.
Wow.
And she lived in the US or Canada, and she used to write from there science books in Kannada.
Oh.
So yeah, we've had a whole lot of women writing. Unfortunately, the Kannada novel in Kannada, written by women, is it had its heyday in the 80s, 90s, 70s, 60s, and then it's not come back in that form. I'm hoping somebody will, bring it back in a graphic novel way or something. We need more women writing in Kannada.
Yeah, so for the listeners, I'm looking at one.
Yeah, well, I can't write in Kannada. Yeah. I speak Kannada, it's my mother tongue and all that, but my thinking is in English, unfortunately. Right. So, however, one, I think I'll probably announce it here for the first time, is that my book of translation is coming out soon.
Okay, great.
So, I've translated 100 poems of the great Kannada poet Nisar Ahmed, Professor K.S. Nisar Ahmed, into English, and it will be released in January.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Great. This thinking in English, even I have a problem because I'm from Kerala.
Yeah.
Thinking happens in English.
Yeah.
You don't speak that language, but thinking happens.
Yeah, because I think I didn't read Kannada books growing up. I read books in English growing up. In the 70s, our parents also wanted us to read in English. They wanted us to be proficient in English. That generation was, post-colonial. Like my grandfathers had both been part of the freedom struggle. But my parents were the children they were born at that time. They had just been born. My dad was 1937 born. My mom was 1947 born. But they didn't have the burden of the freedom struggle on them. It was all optimism and hope and looking towards America. Okay, so it was like our children should learn English, they should go to convent schools, they should be so good and they should go to find their fortunes there. And now we have come back and now I feel so embarrassed that I'm not able to write or think in Kannada. Correct. It's a big problem. I can speak very comfortably, but thinking and expressing myself, articulating is very hard. Even translation, I can do Kannada to English, but I can't do English to Kannada. Right. Which, yeah.
So recently, I don't know how many of you people are aware, we've just celebrated the International Men's Day that was on 18th of November. So I don't want to single them out. How about the men who contributed for Kannada literature? Oh,
so many. Not necessarily from Bangalore, but Karnataka. So Girish Karnad is from Bangalore. Chandrasekhar Kambar is from Bangalore. Kuempu was not from here, but he was the Chancellor of Mysore University. So, Mysore Kingdom was basically, Bangalore was part of it. Then there is Shivaram Karant from the Bangalore area. He was a dramatist and cultural folklorist. He wrote about Yakshagana and things. Then there were poets, like so many poets. And now contemporarily, there are people like Vasudhendra. He writes. He is a very well-known author. And who else? I mean, those are the Kannada writers. And English, there are just so many authors from Bangalore. We can't even begin to, both women, men, so many. So if I start, I will definitely leave someone out. So I don't want to specify names.
All right.
Yeah, but the men also have contributed a lot. Equal. Oh, absolutely. We have the more Gnanpith. Unfortunately, a woman, Kannada woman or a Bangalore woman, Karnataka woman hasn't won a Gnanpith award yet.
Okay.
But after Hindi, Kannada literature has won more Gnanpith awards. But we have Banu Mushtaq now, who has won the International Booker Prize. She's not from Bangalore, Hassan. But still, the women, at least they have come into this international forum. Gnanpith awards were who? Kuempu, Bendre, DVG. Forgot to mention D.V. Gundappa. He's a colossus of Kannada literature thinking. He wrote this book, not a book, like a composition called Mankutimana Kagga. which Kannadigas consider the equivalent of the Bhagavad Gita in Kannada. I mean, it's a work of great wisdom and very pithy. And Mankutima is like this fool, this rambling fool. And his kagga means like his laments or his ramblings, a fool's ramblings. Mm-hmm. He calls it that, but each of it is short and deeply wise. So we have those kind of people, DVG, so many. You'll be spoiled for choice.
Roopa, so I grew up in the Middle East. I did my undergrad in Nagpur, and then I did my masters in Bhopal, then moved to Kerala for work, shifted to New Delhi, then Gurgaon, and I finally moved to Bangalore.
My God, you've really been around.
Yes, so from north-south, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, so of all these places, I felt that Bangalore has this deep connection with gardening and planting trees and all that. What is the origin of this particular behavioral pattern in Bangalore?
Again, it feels like it's a very old thing and something that was encouraged and patronized by rulers, nice. Which is why it became so much part of the DNA of Bangalore. Because after all, in the end, we are built on a series of hills, granite hills, solid granite hills. And you don't have lush vegetation on granite hills usually. Correct. But Bangalore is a garden city. So how did that happen? A lot of it was hand planted. It was planted to a design. It was, the people loved trees so much that they brought it from everywhere. So we have a contradiction here. We are built on granite, but we have great weather for growing things. All kinds of, we can grow tropical vegetation, we can grow temperate vegetation, sub-Himalayan vegetation, everything grows in this weather. So when the British, even pre-British, Tipu Sultan, his father Hyder Ali had a great love of gardens. It was the typical Muslim rulers. Muslim rulers have always had a great love for gardens because I think it's part of given that the founding of the religion was in a very arid desert.
Right, yes.
So heaven to them, Jannat has always been a place where there is a lot of plants and greenery, a lot of water, flowing water. So that is the conception of paradise. Yes. And therefore, wherever Muslim rulers went, they would create Jannat, as far as possible. And there was a certain design that developed from the Mughals. So it was the Mughal gardens, a particular layered, stepped kind of parks with water, the sound of running water always prominent. Yes. And beautifully planted rose gardens were a big thing because any Muslim emperor you'll see in profile holding a rose. That is that's the typical way they are portrayed. So roses were a big love affair for the Muslims. And Hyder started it actually. And he wanted to green his city, which was Bangalore, Mysore, Bangalore, but Srirangpatna was his capital, but he had a summer palace here. He started building the summer palace, which is near the Victoria Hospital. He started it and Tipu finished it. But at that time, he wanted greenery around. He wanted to create a garden and he got the best in the business. He got these people called the Tigalas, who were very green-fingered gardeners from the Tamil area, from the Tamil country. He got them here and said, plant for me. And he started this rose and cypress garden called Lal Bagh in 1760. And it was called Lal Bagh. So one theory is that Kempe Gowda had a garden there already. It was called Kempu Tota, and he was growing flowers for worship. That was the Indian conception of garden, is it has to grow something useful.
Correct.
Not just big lawns. And nobody saw any point in big lawns because we're a hot country. Correct. In a country like England, lawns are important because you need to catch the sun in the summer, But here we want shade everywhere, and we want it to be a tota. Tota is different from a garden. Tota is which provides useful vegetation, produce, either flowers, whatever. But it's for a purpose. It's not just only a king could enjoy that. So he had cypress and rose kind of Persian kind of gardens there. And Tipu was even more enthusiastic about planting. So he was so enthusiastic about gardens that when he used to send embassies to the King of France, asking for French help to fight the British in India, his ambassadors would go. It would be a long journey of 6 months by ship. And then they would wait in France for 3 months for an audience with the king. And then he would promise, yes, of course, you have French support. And then they would have to come all the way back. But the standing instruction to all these embassies were, on the way back, of course, we didn't have steamships. At that time, the Suez Canal wasn't there. yet. So they had to go around the coast of Africa and come. So the instruction was that you have to, wherever it docks to take on fresh produce or whatever, you have to bring me saplings and seeds from all these countries so that we will plant them in Bangalore. Imagine, we think of Bangalore as, you know, some small isolated backwater in the center of southern peninsula of India, but we have plants from everywhere in Lal Bagh. And that's because, partly it was because of what Tipu started. And they would come back and these chests of seeds and saplings would be carried on elephant bags and over the Western Ghats, brought to Mysore, brought to Srirangapatna. 3 Lal Baghs were there, he would plant them. I mean, crazy, but that's what a deep love of gardens. And the Tigalas were such good gardeners, they could coax, you know, vegetables and fruits and flowers from the red earth, so they would do their part. And after Tipu died, 1799, he was killed in the 4th Mysore War. Lal Bagh was there already, and the British took it on. They anyway have a great love of gardens, the British.
Yeah.
So they took it. Cubbon, who was the commissioner of Bangalore from 1834 to 1861, something like that. I think 1834 to 1860, 27 years. Yeah, 1861. He created a horticultural society. He gave Lal Bagh to them. He said, grow things, and they started nativizing plants and everything from different parts of the world here. Anything would be an experiment for them. They made it into a botanical garden. Okay. Yeah. And then there was a German horticulturist who the Maharaja of Mysore took from the Maharaja of Baroda. When he was about to retire and go back, no, please come here, Gustav Krumbiegel. And he said, green my city, green Bangalore. And so Lal Bagh was the nursery, and exotics from everywhere were already growing there. And Gustav Krumbiegel designed the treescape of Bangalore, avenue trees, what will grow, this, that. And, he designed it in such a way that in every season of the year, a different flowering tree is in bloom in Bangalore. So any time you come to Bangalore, you can tell which season it is by looking at what flowers are there. And there are always flowers to look at. And this is at a policy government level. But at an individual level, Bangalore has always been a place where people are giving cuttings to each other. You go visit somebody, a friend, and they'll be like, oh, this is so beautiful, I'll give you a cutting. So you go plant it in your house. It's always been a city where every little house has always been enriched by a beautiful garden around it.
It's also fun to see how the way you've divided your chapters in the book. It's Gulmohar, Champaka, African tulip, pink trumpet. So is this something to do with the whole gardening?
Absolutely. That was the hardest part of this book to decide, because it was a series of columns. I had written them over 4 years, and without any particular pattern to them. Whatever I felt like writing that Monday, I would write it. It was a fortnightly column. And then came the idea of let's compile them into a book. Okay, so we chose 75 of those, whatever, 100 or something were there at that time. And then how to slice and dice them so that they would form some kind of narrative, So the easiest way, or the most instinctive way that comes is, okay, people, places, institutions, things like that we can divide. Then we said, but my columns involve all of it. There are people also, then there are institutions also. In the same column, the same 600 words, there are a lot of different elements that come in. So that became a little difficult. Okay, shall we do it chronologically? No, it shifts back and forth through time. Every column goes back and forth in time. So that was also not happening. Then we said, shall we do it in the chronology that appeared in the Hindustan Times? But what is the point of that? There is no real chronology. Okay, she wrote this from this year, this month to this month, these columns were written. Didn't make any sense. Didn't convey a spirit of Bangalore. Shall we do it by area? Shall we say all these things are in this area of Bangalore, so that anybody can take the book, go to that area, find those, and go and do a little exploratory thing by themselves. But it wasn't that kind of book. It wasn't maps and discover Bangalore. It was more a storytelling emotional feel of Bangalore. Yes. So you say it's emotional. Then when you hit on that word, what brings out Bangalore's emotion apart from idli, dosa, vade? That is one emotion. But what else? It's saying gardens. trees.
Yes.
This is what, So then we said seasons. What about seasons? And that went very nicely with the pun on a date with Bangalore.
Yes.
A date. It's a love affair date also, but it's also a romantic date also, but it's also a date on a calendar. So we said, okay, let's do it this way. And the most natural way, rather than saying spring, summer and all, which those divisions don't exist here.
Yes.
So, actually the fall comes in January. Between January and February is when the leaves all drop off. So it comes after winter. So it doesn't go. Then we said the only way to do it is through flowering season. Once we hit upon it, we said, my God, there's no other way to do Bangalore.
So in our previous episode with Vaishnavi, who was an urban development professional, we had discussed at length about how important the water is to the city. So those of you who haven't seen it, I'll share the link in the description. Now, a question to you, Roopa. How important is water to Bangalore, metaphorically? Bangalore is one of the cities, like we also already discussed, it doesn't have access to the coast. It sits right in the middle. So water, and it has to happen, then only you can have a civilization settled.
Yes.
So could you just touch upon that?
Yeah, so not only are we far away from the coast, we have no river.
Right now, yes, we don't have.
No, but even that earlier river was not like a major river. So you would say, why did any other earlier city that we see? So we think of Bangalore as being close to 500 years old, because we say 1537 is where we say Kempegowda started. But we have found the word Bengaluru, on inscriptions and all, from 870s. Okay, so the word Bengaluru has been there, so it's been around. So why would a city develop around something in a place where there is no water body? There's no natural water body. There's no sea. There's no river. But because we are on a hill, there were a lot of places where water collected, rainwater collected naturally. So there was those places where water collected, which were linked together by an ingenious system of canals. So that even if one got filled up, then it would go to the next one and next one and next one. So there was always enough water as long as the population was small. There was enough water. And water was worshipped because it was so scarce. They had enough, but it had to be managed, it had to be collected. It wasn't just plentifully always available, So there was a great respect for water that had already developed in Bangalore. And then the population became so much, the lakes began to dry up. There was a great demand on the land, so that we wanted to build, buildings and stadiums and bus stations and everything in lake beds. So we started doing that, and then the Kaveri was tapped, for water to feed this burgeoning population. And it's such a ridiculous thing if you think about it. The Kaveri is 100 kilometers away.
Yes.
And so first the water has to be pumped from Shivanasamudra, where it is tapped for Bangalore, which is so far away to the southwest. And we have to bring it here, and then you have to pump it up 500 meters. Because we are so much above sea level that the water has to be pumped up. It's a whole feat of engineering just to bring water to this city. So water problems have always been there with the city. I remember in the 80s and all, when I was growing up, you open the tap and there's no water. There's a new book by Sundar Sarukkai, a lovely novel about Bangalore called Water Days. And Water Day was the phrase we used to indicate when water was coming. Only 3 times a week or something. So water days, you all go and you collect the water and then you store it and keep it in. And so we are a water scarce city, always have been. The fact that now everybody complains that, there is no water coming when you open now we don't even have that problem. Wherever the Kaveri is connected, there's hardly any time when water doesn't come. There's always water. The only problem with water now is the areas that haven't been brought into the Kaveri yet. But they're also phase 5 of the Kaveri is coming in. And they will also be connected. But yeah, so water is a big... and now we have the other problem of flooding when it rains.
Yes.
Because water has a memory. It remembers where it used to flow. Right. You can build houses there, but water knows where it used to flow. So it goes along the same routes. So yeah, there's a lot of fraught relationship with water. Good relationship and troublesome.
But it's interesting to know that this Karga festival
Yeah.
that happens,
Yes.
it's about water.
Yes.
And it's the major festival of Bangalore.
Of Bangalore.
And so for some reason, the people in the core, they understand these values. As you go away from the core,
Yeah, it
those
gets
memories,
diluted, to use a pun. Yeah.
faded away.
Faded away. Yeah, Karaga is, yes, it's completely based on water, and it's water. It's Draupadi as water, the Shakti, the feminine Shakti in the form of water. And again, to bring us back sort of full circle, it is a festival that was brought to Bangalore by the Tigalas.
Yes.
And they live in the absolute center of the city, in Kempegowda's Bangalore, in the heart of Kempegowda's Bangalore and around Lal Bagh. That's where they still live. And it's a 11-day festival or 10-day festival, and each day they worship a different water body.
Okay.
Yeah, and the coolest thing is that one of the first days is the little, what is left in Cubbon Park. Inside Cubbon Park, there is a water body which they worship at. So they take little water from there. Then there is one in Kantira Stadium.
It was a big water body.
It was a huge lake, and now it's become reduced to a little Kalyani. But we have retained that because it's important for the festival.
Right.
And it's all kinds of wonderful Karaga actually, because it is about water, which is now, with all this climate change and all, it's become such a precious resource that it's already there in the memories of people, that water. Then it's about female energy, and it's about immigrant festival. So in all ways, it sort of represents Bangalore, which has always been very gender equal in terms of opportunities. It has always been welcoming to immigrants, and it has always had challenges with water. So that's why it's revered. So in a way, it signifies Bangalore itself, Karaga.
It's actually fascinating to hear how one can work with the environment, to achieve a larger good. So we recently had an MArch urban design student who had done her thesis on this Karga. Very interesting. So some of you are here, in and around the college, you can definitely drop into the library. Let's move on to science. Let's talk about Bangalore and her contribution towards science. So what?
Sure, that's another whole plethora of things. We can't even. Again, I don't know where to begin. But usually, the line in the sand where we begin is the Indian Institute of Science. The establishment of the IISc led to science coming here in such a big way. But if you think about it, even before, when the whole of the 19th century, there were geologists, there were like Francis Buchanan, diarists, they walked across the Mysore country and they chronicled it too. Geography, crops, soil, culture, everything was, beautifully chronicled, documented. That is also a kind of science, even though we think of science now only as physics, chemistry, biology. Right. Geology is also a great science, and so there were people like that. There were all these botanists, they were the great trigonometrical survey of India.
Yes.
It began in Bangalore. Yeah, the first pilot run was done in Bangalore, and then of course the actual starting was at Chennai, but because it had to start at sea level. But the experiment was done here, and all of this happened because once Tipu died, the whole of this peninsula was available to the British. They always were in Madras, but they couldn't penetrate deeper because Tipu had it. So once he died, the whole of the peninsula was for theirs for the taking. So in the sense of, for scientific exploration, botanists came here. They began naming the trees, classifying them. There were geologists who came. Everybody came here and started, and then the surveyors, the mapping guys. So they started mapping India from here. So it's always been a hotbed of scientific activity since 1799. And if you go to Tipu's time, even before, there was science then, because it was Tipu who was responsible for the rockets, the missiles, And of course, rockets were there in the world before. The Chinese had rockets. The rockets was a well-known kind of technology. But the Mysore rockets that Tipu innovated on had the longest range in the world at that time.
Right.
Because his innovation was where everybody else used to pack the gunpowder into paper or bamboo or wooden cylinders, which couldn't withstand too much heat or pressure and would burst quite soon after the rocket was let fly. He packaged the gunpowder into a soft iron cylinder, metal. Metal work has always been in India, we're always ahead of the world in metal work. we knew the properties of metal and everything. So he packed it in a soft iron cylinder, and it had a range. When it was fired, it would travel close to 1 kilometer of range. So you could have like, you start, and the British didn't know this at all, and they were like, their horses were in disarray because this rocket, and he figured out a way to launch several rockets at the same time on a cart, on a wheeled cart. It would be taken somewhere, and then this guy would light all of them, his rocket launchers, and they would all go, and they would be fitted with swords. So they would also cause that kind of mayhem when they fell there. Like a Diwali rocket, you didn't know when it would burst, where it would go, So, and the horses were terrified. So that kind of innovation was there from Tipu's time itself. Then all this. Then, in a more formal way, the Indian Institute of Science. So that was a collaboration between, and the stories in the book, so I won't go into it. But it brought together a monk from Calcutta, Swami Vivekananda, a businessman from Bombay, Mr. Tata, and the Maharaja of Mysore, all three of them, and the Diwan of Mysore, Sheshadri Iyer, all four of them in combination, and of course the Queen, Vani Vilasa, led to it brought in all these people, and their collaboration. Basically, Mr. Tata was looking for a place to set up a scientific institute, and Mr. Swami Vivekananda, who he met on a ship going to America, told him that, they used to tap the princely states for money, and Baroda and Mysore and all were the more progressive ones. So Vivekananda told him, the person who has sponsored my trip to America to speak at the Parliament of Religions is the Maharaja of Mysore. So they'll be I think he's a good guy to tap. You should go. And by the time Mr. Tata reached him, he had died, Chamarajendra Wadiyar of diphtheria. But his wife was there, who was the regent, and his Diwan was there. And the Diwan Sheshadri Iyer, advised the Queen, just give it to him, make sure, this is a great thing, we must support it. So the Queen very wisely said, not only I'll give you money, I'll support you in every way, I'll give you, but the thing is, if you want land, and I will give you land, you have to promise to set it up in Bangalore. So that was the clincher. Of course, the British said, no, we will send William Ramsay to see if it's worthwhile, if it's suitable, etc. William Ramsay later went on to win the Nobel Prize for Chemistry. He came here, he checked out Bangalore, he said it's perfect because no conflict. Tipu had died, the Maharaja of Mysore and the British were allies. Not really allies, but the Maharaja was doing his own thing, but he was not in confrontation with the British. And the scientists like places which is quiet and which is not going to erupt in something all the time. So she said, 300 acres of land, take it, do it. And William Ramsay said, it's perfect. So they started the Indian Institute of Science. Then all the other things happened where the World War began, and even before the First World War, the Bangalore torpedo was invented here. This was a weapon that would blast through barbed wire fencing. That was a huge innovation. It happened in Bangalore. Sergeant McClintock of the Madras Sappers, he invented it here. So that's also a military achievement, like a scientific achievement. Then it went on to the Second World War and the aircraft factory. And why would they set it up here? First of all, because it was inland and little away from danger from the coast, because they were coming in from the eastern side, so Bangalore. So the US pilots came here for repairs and rest and relaxation. And Mr. Walchand Hirachand from Bombay, he was looking for a place to set up an automobile factory. He had a collaboration with Chrysler going and everything, but that was not to be. They said, no, we won't allow it. But then he said, okay, I'll make an aircraft factory instead. And Bangalore became where he started Hindustan Aircraft. Yeah. And before that, what about the electricity? We forgot about that. That whole thing of science.
There's one line from...
One line, yeah, from Kolar to... it was meant to go to Kolar for the gold mines in the northeast. But the water which could generate the hydroelectricity was in the southwest, near Mysore. So the longest transmission lines in the world were drawn between the southwest of Bangalore and the northeast of Bangalore. And Bangalore, because location, again happened to be in the right place at the right time, we got the surplus power. And we got power in 1905.
Yes.
And, the incandescent bulb only was invented in the 1890s or 1880s by Edison, and we were already electrified. So just science has always been very much part of the DNA. And later, more contemporary, whenever software industries had to come, we had a great IT policy.
Correct.
And so that way the government has done great things, like, the IT policy, electronic city coming up quite early, a vision for that. And then that was a bureaucrat called Mr. R.K. Baliga. Then biotech policy has been very good. So we invite people, tax holidays, whatever, come take it, but do it here in Karnataka. So yeah, science and the number of scientific institutions in Bangalore, I don't think anybody is aware. Somebody should just do a whole book on just the scientific institutions in Bangalore.
The malaria.
Yeah, Ronald Ross was here. Yes, the malaria thing was cracked here. Yeah, the mosquito malaria relationship, that the mosquito is a vector. Yeah, crazy. Medically also, I don't know. You can't. Like each of these can be an entire book by themselves. The literature part, the science part, the tech part. Tech can be different from science. So there's that much information. Yeah.
Let's move on to politics. Okay, so it's always a hot topic, I know, but can you share with our listeners on how Bangalore has indirectly participated in India's freedom movement with Mr. Gandhi?
Oh, Gandhiji used to come here often. He has come here often. Perhaps not as often as maybe he went to other parts, but he was always traveling. And the first visit was, I think he came back from South Africa in 1914, perhaps. And in 1916, he was already here. So he came to rest here. And he was packed off to Nandi Hills, to relax there. And he stayed in Francis Cunningham's house. And it was the longest time. He was here for some 3-4 months at that time. Okay. The longest he had ever been away from Sabarmati. And he got out of the train station in Yashwantpur. He was so frail, he needed... But first thing, prayer meeting. Already there were so many people because Gandhiji is coming. Then he really had to be, because he wouldn't be disturbed, they took him to Nandi that time. And he recuperated there, came back, stayed in Kumarakripa guest house, next to where the Bangalore Lit Fest was always being conducted all these years. This year, of course, it's moved to Freedom Park. But otherwise, Ashoka Hotel was on the grounds of which so many years of the Bangalore Lit Fest. And Gandhiji was staying right there, in fact. And then he used to visit the NDRI, the National Dairy Research Institute, and visit all the cows there. He was so fond of going there, and he's even left his message in the visitor's book like a farmer from Sabarmati. That's how he is signed off, And then he came again. But what he said he was very, very admiring of the Maharajas. He called the Nalvadi Krishnaraja Vadiya, who was the Krishnaraja Vadiya the fourth, he called him a Raja Rishi, like this is Ram Raja, what you have created in Mysore state. A balance of education, culture, science, visionary thinking, entrepreneurship, innovation, all of it was already there. Mysore was so self-sufficient, we had everything. We had sugar factories, we had Mysore bulbs, we had paper, we had iron and steel in Bhadravati. It was a very self-sufficient, forward-looking kingdom. And because the Maharajas and the Diwans were both educated in Western ways of science and deeply rooted in culture of Karnataka, it was a happy mix. And what they have passed on to us is the DNA of the true Bangalorean today, is what I would call, is somebody who is as comfortable with the Western world, English, science, innovation, rational thinking, as he is with Kannada, Yakshagana, in both Indian values and Western values, and not finding a dichotomy that you are either with us or against us. We can be everything. I contain multitudes. I speak many languages. This is all part of the DNA of a Bangalorean who is comfortable with tradition and science. And, we're also at a crossroads. If you see where Bangalore is located in terms of the states, we are as close to Tamil Nadu and Kerala and as we are to parts of Karnataka. In fact, parts of Karnataka are further away from us as compared to the ones around us. So we are truly a crossroads, a point of fusion, a melting pot, and everybody who comes in enriches.
What has been your favorite story?
So actually, one of my favorite stories is about S.V. Sethi, who is actually India's first aviator, but not as well known as J.R.D. Tata because he was a total Mysorean. He was an engineer. He was an electrical engineer. Thompson's College in Roorkee is where he studied. After he studied in Maharaja's College, Mysore, then went to Thompson's. Then he got a chance to go and work in London. A brief internship. He went there. He got into electrical engineering there. And that was the time when flying aircraft, not even air travel, but aeroplanes were coming in. I think 1903 was when the Wright brothers flew over North Carolina in Kitty Hawk. They flew their first plane. And then in 1909, when S.V. Sethi went to London, that was when Louis Blériot, he made the first channel crossing by plane. So as a mechanical minded young man, he must have been very excited about it. And he was working in some electrical engineering firm. And in 1910, he got a job with Avro, which was called A.V. Rowe and Company. Then it became Avro, but it was actually A.V. Rowe and Company, one of the first aircraft manufacturers. So he was working there. Then a patron from Mysore gave him some money so he could extend his stay for some more time. And during that time, he not only learned to fly, but he also designed. He said it was a very, what came with the territory when it was nice to fly planes, but it also meant that they could crash, right? It was very new. So he figured out some problems with the design of the engine and the aircraft, and he designed a new kind of aircraft, which he himself, a new design for the aircraft, which he himself test flew. And at that time, while he was flying it, there was an Australian entrepreneur who was into flying called Mr. Duigan, I don't know how to pronounce it, D-U-I-G-A-N, Duigan. And he watched this and he said, I want to take that design. And he started making the Avro Duigan, which later became the Avro something else, which was the most produced aircraft during World War I. Wow. That design. Unfortunately, our A.V. Sethi, after his patronage ran out, like the money ran out, he came back to Bangalore. That must have been 1912, 1913, he came back. And here was the new Diwan, Vishweshraya, Sir M.V., waiting to see who are our fellows, our boys coming back from here and there. He caught him, he said, come, now you come back, no, you're here, so come. Sir M.V. was a master at identifying good talent and putting them in charge of various institutions. So he got this S.V. Sethi, and made him become registrar of a new technical college that had started in Bangalore in 1917. That college became the University Vishweshraya College of Engineering. Okay, all this happened. I went to UVC. I am an alumnus of UVC. So for me, and my dad went to UVC. So there's now it's of course over 100 years old. Anyway, he was all excited. We should start. And then the World War came, of course. So everything went a bit slower. And he would have come out of the World War. Once the World War ended, I'm sure S.V. Sethi would have gone on to start an aircraft factory, something in Mysore. That time it's at 1920, 1918. But in 1918, the Spanish flu came to Bangalore, a huge pandemic, and A.V. Sethi died. He was only 38. Yeah, so the aircraft factory that he would have, I'm sure, would have started if he had survived the pandemic, was started again in Bangalore only. So I'm sure he'll be happy to know that HAL came here. The first aircraft factory in the country was here.
Just before we sum it up, Bengaluru or Bangalore?
Oh God, keep getting asked this question. But as I said, since I'm an old Bangalorean, for me, Bangalore is not just a name, it's an emotion. It means something. I have always said Bangalore when I spoke in English, and I've always said Bengaluru when I speak in Kannada. They just roll easily off the tongue. They feel more appropriate. So I continue to do that. That's why, I called it becoming Bangalore. It's in English. If this was translated into Kannada, it would be Bengaluru.
Thank you so much, Roopa. I never knew where the time flew. So thank you so much for being with us today and sharing your thoughts. You've made me fall in love with Bangalore all over again.
That is entirely my whole reason for raison d'etre.
Thank you so much, Roopa.
You're welcome.
Thank you for listening to We the City, a space where every perspective shapes our urban story. This podcast is by the MArch Urban Design Program at BMS School of Architecture, Yelahanka, Bengaluru. Music is by Binny Johnson, faculty, BMS School of Architecture, and technical support is by Lokesh, BMS IT, Yelahanka. ಮುಂದಿನ ಬಾರಿ ಮತ್ತೆ ಭೇಟಿಯಾಗೋಣ. ಬರುವ ಭಾಗಗಳನ್ನು ಕಾದು ನೋಡಿರಿ. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರ.